The rain came down in sheets that November afternoon, turning the cobblestones of Prague's old town into mirrors that reflected nothing but gray sky. I stood outside the cafe where Elena worked, watching her through the fogged window as she laughed with a customer, her dark hair falling across her face the way it always did when she was genuinely happy. 3 years we'd been together. 3 years of building something I thought was real. My phone buzzed. Her brother Tomas. "Did you find it?" I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. The tablet sat heavy in my messenger bag, its weight somehow greater than its actual mass. I'd found it that morning, tucked behind the radiator in our bedroom. Her old tablet, the one she said she'd thrown away months ago. The one she'd locked with a password I wasn't supposed to know. But I did know it. I'd seen her type it once, half asleep, when she thought I wasn't paying attention. 081296. August 12th, 1996. Her father's birthday. The father who died when she was 17. The ghost that haunted every corner of our relationship. Inside the cafe, Elena glanced toward the window. I stepped back into the shadow of a doorway, my heart hammering. I couldn't face her yet. Not until I understood what I'd seen. The photograph had been buried in a folder marked Archive. A single image that shattered everything. Elena, maybe 22 or 23, standing in front of a villa I recognized immediately. My family's summer house. In the Bohemian countryside. My father's hand rested on her shoulder, proprietary, intimate. They were both smiling. Behind them, partially visible through the window, was my mother. Her face turned away, but her posture rigid, with something that looked like resignation. The date stamp read, June 2017. 6 months before Elena and I had supposedly met by chance at a mutual friend's birthday party. I started walking, letting my feet carry me through the winding streets toward the Charles Bridge. The Vltava River churned below, swollen with autumn rain. Tourists huddled under umbrellas, taking selfies with the statues of saints. I wanted to scream at them that nothing was sacred, that every story had a lie at its foundation. My father, Karel Moravec, was a man who collected things: real estate, art, influence, secrets. He'd built his fortune in the chaos after the Velvet Revolution, buying up properties that desperate people sold for nothing. My mother, Petra, had learned to look away from his indiscretions, to focus on her charity work and her garden and her carefully maintained denial. But Elena was different. She was supposed to be mine. I called Thomas. He answered on the first ring. "You saw it," he said. Not a question. "When were you going to tell me?" "I only found out last week. I was going through my father's old things." He paused, his breath ragged. "There are letters, Martin. Letters between Elena and your father, going back years." The bridge swayed beneath my feet, or maybe I was the one swaying. "What do the letters say?" "Come to the apartment. You need to see everything." Tomas lived in Zizkov, in a crumbling Art Nouveau building that smelled of cabbage and cigarettes. His apartment was small, cluttered with books and vinyl records. He'd been a philosophy student before dropping out to work in a record shop. And he still had the haunted look of someone who'd read too much Nietzsche, too young. He spread the letters across his kitchen table like tarot cards, predicting disaster. "I found them in a box my father left with me before he died," Tomas said, pouring us each a glass of Slivovitz. "He told me to give them to Elena when she turned 30. She turned 30 last month." I picked up the first letter, my father's handwriting, precise and controlled. Asterisk Elena, You must understand that what we're doing serves a greater purpose. Your father's death was not your fault, but the debt remains. This is how you honor his memory, by helping me correct the injustices of the past." "What debt?" I asked. Tomas lit a cigarette, his hands shaking. "In 1995, your father and mine were business partners. They bought a factory together, textiles, on the outskirts of the city. It was supposed to make them both rich, but your father—" He exhaled smoke toward the ceiling. "Your father cooked the books, made it look like the business was failing. My father had to declare bankruptcy, lost everything. Your father bought his share for pennies and sold the property 2 years later for millions." The room tilted. "Elena knew this?" "She found out after our father died. He left a letter explaining everything. She was 17, furious, grieving. She contacted your father, demanded justice, and your father, being your father, saw an opportunity." I read through more letters. A pattern emerged, sickening in its clarity. My father had promised Elena restitution. Not money, but something more valuable. Access, information, the means to destroy him from within. "She's been spying on him," I whispered. "For 8 years, Tomas confirmed. She got close to your family, learned your routines, your secrets, your weaknesses, and then she met you." "By accident? Does anything involving your father happen by accident?" I thought of all the times Elena had asked casual questions about my father's business. The times she'd suggested I reach out to him, repair our fractured relationship. The way she'd encouraged me to join him for dinner, to visit the office, to be present at family gatherings I'd spent years avoiding. I thought she was trying to heal me. Instead, she'd been using me as a key. "What's her endgame?" I asked. Tomas handed me a final letter, this one in Elena's handwriting, dated 3 weeks ago. "Carl, I have everything I need now. The offshore accounts, the forged documents, the recordings. 28 years ago, you destroyed my family. Now, I will destroy yours. Martin was collateral damage I didn't anticipate. But love was never part of this equation. After tomorrow's board meeting, when the prosecutors receive my evidence, the Moravec name will mean nothing. My father will finally rest. Tomorrow." The board meeting was tomorrow. I stood up so fast the chair clattered backward. "I need to warn him." "Are you insane?" Tomas grabbed my arm. "Your father is a criminal, Martin. He ruined my family. He probably ruined others. Elena is doing what the law never would." "By lying to me for 3 years? By sleeping with me, living with me, making me believe?" My voice cracked. "I loved her." "Did she love you?" The question hung between us like smoke. I thought of 1,000 small moments. Elena's hand in mine during a screening of a Costa Rica film. The way she'd nursed me through the flu last winter, reading to me from Kundera in her soft voice. The morning she'd cried in my arms after a nightmare about her father. And I'd promised I'd never let anyone hurt her. Had any of it been real? I grabbed my coat. "Where is she delivering the evidence?" "Martin?" "Where?" Tomas sighed. "The prosecutor's office. She has an appointment at 9 a.m. I checked my watch. 6:30. I had time. The drive to my father's estate took 40 minutes through rush hour traffic. The house sat on a hill overlooking a valley, all glass and steel and arrogance. My mother's car was in the driveway. A Mercedes she drove to garden club meetings and charity lunches, performing the role of the unbothered wife. She answered the door in a cashmere sweater and pearls, her face carefully composed. "Martin, this is unexpected. Where's father? In his study. What's wrong? I pushed past her into the house. The study door was closed. I didn't knock. My father looked up from his laptop, irritation flashing across his face before settling into the mask of paternal concern he wore when we had an audience. Martin, to what do I owe? Elena Svobodova, I said. His expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. Recognition, calculation. Sit down, son. Don't call me that. Not after what you did. He closed the laptop carefully. What exactly do you think I did? You ruined her, father. You've been using her, using me, for God knows what purpose. And tomorrow, she's going to the prosecutors with evidence that will destroy you. My father stood, walked to the window. Outside, the valley was dark. The lights of villages scattered like fallen stars. Daniel Svoboda was a fool, he said quietly. He trusted the wrong people, made bad decisions. I simply took advantage of opportunities he created. You stole from him. I survived. In those years after the revolution, only the strong survived. Daniel was weak. He would have lost everything anyway. So you helped yourself to his share. I paid him what the business was worth at the time. It's not my fault he didn't see the potential. The casual cruelty of it staggered me. Elena's father killed himself because of the shame. Did you know that? For the first time, my father's mask slipped. I heard. You heard, that's all? I stepped closer. His children grew up in poverty. Elena had to work 3 jobs to put herself through university. And you knew this whole time. When I brought her home for Sunday dinner. When she sat at your table and smiled and pretended. She's very good at pretending, my father said. I'll give her that. I suspected from the beginning, of course. The coincidence of you meeting was too convenient. But I thought I could manage her, turn her to my advantage. By seducing her? He turned, and for a moment I saw genuine surprise. I never touched her, Martin. Whatever she showed you, whatever you think you saw, I'm many things. But I'm not that. Then explain the photograph. June 2017, our summer house. Understanding dawned. Ah, that. She came to me with a proposal. Help her gather evidence against some of my business associates in exchange for letting bygones be bygones regarding her father. I agreed. The photograph was her insurance, I suppose. Proof we'd met. I didn't think she'd actually go through with any of it. But she did. She did, he agreed. And now we both have a problem. We don't have anything. This is your mess. My father moved to his desk, unlocked a drawer, pulled out a folder. Before you make any decisions, look at this. The folder contained financial records. Transactions, account numbers, names I recognized from the news. Politicians, judges, police officials. Millions of euros flowing through shell companies. This is what Elena found, my father said. What she plans to give to the prosecutors. But here's what she doesn't know. Half of these people are on my payroll. The prosecutor she's meeting with tomorrow? His daughter's university tuition comes from one of these accounts. Elena thinks she's destroying me, but she's actually triggering a war she can't win. People will die, Martin. Maybe even her. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm trying to protect you. If this goes public, our name will be toxic. Your career, your reputation, everything you've built independently will be tainted. You'll be the son of a criminal. Forever. I'm already the son of a criminal. He smiled, sad and knowing. Yes, but only we knew that. Tomorrow, everyone will. I looked at the documents. at the web of corruption my father had woven across decades. Elena had no idea what she was stepping into. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Stop her. Convince her to stand down. I'll pay restitution to the Svoboda family, whatever they need. But this evidence can't come out." Why would she listen to me? I'm just another tool she used. "Because," my father said, "despite everything, I think she loves you. I've watched you two together, the way she looks at you when you're not paying attention. That's not acting, Martin. That's real. You don't know anything about love. More than you think." He glanced toward the door, toward where my mother was surely listening. "I know what it costs. I know what people sacrifice for it. And I know that Elena is at a crossroads. She can choose revenge, or she can choose you. But she can't have both." I left without another word, driving through the rain back to Prague. The city lights blurred through the windshield. My phone kept buzzing. Elena, wondering where I was. I didn't answer. At midnight, I finally went home. Elena was curled up on the couch in my old university hoodie, pretending to read. She looked up when I entered, relief flooding her face. "Martin, I was worried. You weren't answering. I found your tablet." She went very still. "I saw the photograph. I talked to Tomas. I know everything." Slowly, she set down the book. "What did your father tell you?" "That you've been planning this for 8 years. That you used me to get close to him. That tomorrow you're going to the prosecutors. And you came to stop me." I came to understand why. Elena stood, wrapped her arms around herself. She looked smaller somehow, younger. My father was a good man, kind, gentle. After your father betrayed him, after we lost everything, I watched him shrink into himself. He couldn't find work, couldn't face his friends. One morning I found him in the garage. He'd hanged himself from the rafters. Her voice was flat, reciting facts to keep the emotion at bay. I was 17. Tomas was 14. Our mother was already sick. She died a year later. We had nothing. No money, no future, no justice. Your father went on living in his castle, getting richer, more powerful. It wasn't fair. So you decided to take him down. I decided he needed to pay. I spent years gathering evidence, building a case, and then I met you." She looked at me, and her eyes were wet. "That wasn't supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to be kind, or funny, or broken in all the same ways I was. You weren't supposed to see me. But I did. You did. And I fell in love with you anyway, even knowing what I was planning, even knowing I'd have to hurt you." "When?" I asked. "When did you fall in love with me?" She thought about it. "The night you told me about your mother's garden, how she plants flowers but never cuts them because she can't bear to kill anything beautiful. You looked so sad, Martin. So trapped in that family. I realized we were both prisoners of your father's choices. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly." "The board meeting is tomorrow," I said. "After you submit the evidence, what happens to us?" "There is no us, not after what I've done." "That's not what I asked." Elena came closer, close enough that I could smell her shampoo, see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to choose between me and your family. I just need you to understand that some debts have to be paid." "Even if innocent people get hurt?" "Who's innocent, Martin? Your father? Your mother who looked away for 30 years? The system that let him get away with it?" "Me," I said quietly. "I'm innocent. She flinched as if I'd struck her. I know. You're the one thing I regret. Regret enough to stop? No. The word hung between us, final and devastating. I could have walked away then. Should have. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed her the photographs I'd taken of my father's files. The names, the payments, the prosecutors on the payroll. This is what you're walking into, I said. Tomorrow morning, you're not exposing my father. You're declaring war on half the government. They will bury you. Elena studied the screen, her face unreadable. So, what do you suggest? I suggest we do this right, not through corrupt prosecutors. Through the media, international media. People my father can't threaten or buy. And I suggest you let me help you. Why would you do that? Because he destroyed your family. And in doing so, he destroyed mine too. This house of cards needs to come down. But I'll be damned if I let you die bringing it down. She searched my face for the lie, the trap. You're not trying to protect him. I'm trying to protect you. There's a difference. For a long moment, we stood in our apartment, our home, filled with 3 years of shared life, while the rain continued outside and the city slept, oblivious to the war being waged in whispers and shadows. Finally, Elena nodded. Okay, we do it together. But Martin, after this is over, after your father faces justice, I'm leaving. I'm going away, and you can't follow me, because you deserve someone who chose you from the start. Someone who didn't build your entire relationship on a lie. What if I don't want that? What if I want the person who taught me that love and rage can exist in the same heart? The person who showed me that loyalty to the truth matters more than loyalty to blood? Then you're a fool. Probably, I agreed. But I'm your fool. She kissed me then, and it tasted like salt and rain and endings. We spent that night planning, drafting documents, reaching out to journalists we trusted. By dawn, we had a strategy. By noon, the first articles would publish. By evening, my father's empire would begin to crumble. When we finally fell into bed as the sun rose over Prague's spires, Elena whispered against my shoulder, I did love you. I do love you. That was never part of the plan. I know, I said, though I didn't. Not really. Not yet. The truth I was learning was something you had to earn through fire. And we'd only just begun to burn. The board meeting happened without us. By the time my father arrived at his office, the stories were everywhere. International papers, television news, online forums buzzing with outrage. The evidence was undeniable. Meticulously documented, corroborated by sources Elena had cultivated over years. My phone rang constantly. My mother called, her voice shaking, asking how I could betray the family. Friends who'd never really been friends demanded explanations. The university where I taught philosophy put me on administrative leave, pending investigation. Elena and I watched it unfold from Thomas's apartment, drinking coffee and barely speaking. The weight of what we'd done, what we were still doing, pressed down like winter sky. 3 days later, my father was arrested. I didn't visit him. Couldn't bear to see him caged, diminished. My mother filed for divorce within a week, moving to her sister's house in Vienna. The estate was seized, along with most of his assets. The family name I'd carried with such ambivalence became a curse overnight. But Elena had been right about one thing. Some debts do have to be paid. A month after it all began, I found her packing. I'd known this moment was coming, but had convinced myself I could prevent it somehow. That love, if it had been love, would be enough to override everything else. Where will you go? I asked from the doorway. Lisbon, maybe, or Copenhagen. Somewhere I can start over. She folded a sweater carefully, not looking at me. You could come with me. You said I couldn't follow you. I know what I said. But I'm a liar, Martin. We've established that. I sat on the edge of the bed we'd shared, watching her pack away 3 years of our life. If I come with you, what are we? Accomplices? Survivors? Partners in some ongoing crime against our own histories? I don't know. Maybe we're just two people trying to live with what we've done. Maybe that's enough. Is it? She finally looked at me, and I saw the girl she'd been at 17, furious, grieving, desperate for something that looked like justice. I also saw the woman she'd become, hardened, capable, haunted by the very revenge she'd achieved. No, she said honestly, it's probably not enough. But it's what we have. I thought about my father, sitting in a cell awaiting trial. My mother, rebuilding her life in a foreign city. Tomas, finally free of the debt that had shadowed his entire adult life. All the other families my father had crushed, now vindicated. The price of truth. And I thought about the photograph that started everything. Young Elena standing beside my father, both of them smiling at a camera, unaware that this single image would years later become the match that lit a bonfire. Lisbon, I said finally. I've always wanted to see Lisbon. Elena's hands stilled on the half-packed suitcase. You're sure? No. But I haven't been sure of anything since I found that tablet. Maybe certainty is overrated. She crossed the room and took my face in her hands, studying me like I was a text she was trying to translate. I will spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Don't, I said. Don't make this into another debt to be repaid. We've had enough of those. Then what do we call it? We call it what it is. Messy, complicated, real. We left Prague on a gray March morning, the city still sleeping under a blanket of fog. As our train pulled away from the station, I watched the spires and bridges disappear, all those centuries of history receding into memory. Elena's hand found mine. Her grip was tight, uncertain. Neither of us knew what we were doing or where we'd end up. But we were doing it together. Two people bound by the wreckage of the past and the fragile hope of something that might, eventually, feel like forgiveness. My father would stand trial. The truth was out. Justice, imperfect and incomplete, was being served. And Elena and I, we were learning to live with the consequences of every choice that had brought us here. In the end, revenge had destroyed nothing. It had simply revealed what was already broken, already rotten, already lost. What we built from those ruins would be our own. Flawed, yes. Tainted by lies, absolutely. But ours. The train carried us west toward an ocean neither of us had seen before, leaving behind a city of saints and secrets. And though I couldn't say I'd forgiven her, couldn't say she'd forgiven herself, I could say this. Trust is not something you find in a photograph, or a password, or a promise. It's something you build, slowly, painfully, from the wreckage of everything you thought you knew. And sometimes, if you're very lucky or very foolish, you get to build it twice.